Before cities carved straight lines into the land and before oceans were reduced to coordinates on a map, the Earth followed older laws, laws written not in language but in survival. In that forgotten age, the world was ruled by beings too vast for memory, too powerful for history. Humanity would one day call them myths. But myths are not born from imagination, they are born from remembrance. Long before New York existed, before the idea of civilization itself, the world trembled beneath the footsteps of titans. Among them was Fenrir. In Norse legend, Fenrir was not merely a wolf, but the living embodiment of inevitability. Born of the trickster Loki and the giantess Angrboda, Fenrir was prophecy made flesh. The gods themselves feared him, not because of his strength alone, but because his fate was already written. It was foretold that Fenrir would devour Odin, shatter the heavens, and bring about Ragnarok, the end of all cycles. The gods tried to cheat destiny. They raised Fenrir among them, hoping familiarity would tame him. When that failed, they bound him with chains. Iron shattered. Magic failed. Finally, they forged Gleipnir, a ribbon made from impossible things: the sound of a cat's footstep, the breath of a fish, the roots of a mountain. Fenrir sensed the deception but accepted the binding anyway, knowing the future could not be denied. And so Fenrir waited, not in chains of metal, but in chains of time. Millennia passed, gods faded into stories, humans inherited the earth and believed themselves alone. But deep beneath the Atlantic, in a realm where myth and geology overlap, the bindings weakened. The age of humans had reached a point the old prophecies recognized. The end was permitted to begin. On a quiet night, when New York City glowed like a second sky beneath the stars, the ocean began to move unnaturally. Currents reversed. Whales fled. The seafloor cracked open as something vast shifted beneath it. Sensors detected anomalies they could not explain. And then the Atlantic erupted. Fenrir rose from the depths. He dwarfed the skyline before him, his body stretching longer than city blocks, his fur etched with ancient runes that glowed like dying embers. His eyes carried no hunger, no rage, only purpose. Every step he took toward land sent walls of water crashing into the city. Ships capsized, bridges strained. Humanity's greatest metropolis became fragile in seconds. Fenrir did not roar in triumph, he howled in remembrance. The sound carried across continents, a signal older than language. It was not meant for humans. It was a call to forces that existed before gods chose names. Far across the world, on an island erased from maps and protected by storms, another ancient presence stirred: King Kong. Kong was not born of prophecy or divine manipulation. He was shaped by Earth itself, a relic of a prehistoric world where survival favored size, strength, and intelligence. On Skull Island, evolution had taken paths long abandoned elsewhere. Kong was the apex of that forgotten branch, a living bridge between primordial chaos and natural order. Where Fenrir represented the end of all things, Kong represented resistance. As the storm around Skull Island intensified, Kong felt the disturbance. The ground vibrated with a frequency only Titans could hear. This was not a territorial threat. This was a warning. Something unnatural had crossed into the world of the living. Kong rose to his full height, the jungle bowing beneath him. His roar shattered the air, sending birds fleeing and creatures hiding. The ocean answered with thunder. The balance was breaking. Kong stepped into the sea. Fenrir reached Manhattan in minutes. Skyscrapers collapsed beneath his jaws, as if made of sand. His claws tore through concrete, subway tunnels flooded, and the city screamed. Humanity responded with everything it had: fighter jets, missiles, weapons designed to level nations. They struck Fenrir again and again, but runes-etched fangs absorbed the damage, glowing brighter with each impact. Fenrir was not meant to be stopped by human hands. He was destiny moving forward. As he stood among the ruins, preparing to deliver a final howl meant to darken the sun itself, the river parted. Kong emerged. Water cascaded from his massive frame as he stepped onto the shoreline, eyes locked on the wolf god before him. His presence changed the battlefield instantly. Fenrir turned, sensing something unexpected. This was not a god. This was not fate. This was defiance. Their first collision shook the city harder than any earthquake. Fenrir lunged with impossible speed, his jaws clamping down on Kong's shoulder, rune-etched fangs piercing deep. Kong roared in pain, but wrapped his arms around Fenrir and slammed him into the ground, pulverizing the street beneath them. The fight ignited Manhattan. Fenrir moved with supernatural precision, summoning shadowed chains forged from the same magic that once bound him. They wrapped around Kong's limbs, dragging him through city blocks, reducing buildings to debris. Fenrir struck with claws capable of tearing through mountains, each blow driven by prophecy itself. But Kong adapted. Bleeding and battered, Kong ripped free, using fallen skyscrapers as weapons. He swung steel and concrete with primal fury, landing blow after blow. Each strike carried millions of years of survival instinct, not destiny, but choice. The battle climbed upward. Fenrir leapt onto a towering structure, howling as storm clouds spiraled overhead. Lightning danced along his runes as ancient power surged. This was the storm of Ragnarok, called forth not to destroy gods, but to erase a world that no longer remembered its place. Kong followed, scaling the ruins with raw strength. At the summit, surrounded by fire and wind, Titan faced Titan. Fenrir struck, driving Kong to his knees. The wolf's jaws closed around Kong's arm, threatening to tear it free. For a moment, it seemed prophecy would prevail. Then Kong pushed back. With a roar that carried more rage than fear, Kong forced Fenrir's jaws open and stared into his eyes. There was no hatred there, just exhaustion. Two relics of different truths, forced to collision by a world that had forgotten both. Fenrir unleashed his final howl, a sound meant to end cycles, to extinguish resistance. The sky darkened. The city froze. Kong answered not with sound, but with action. Using the last of his strength, Kong tore a massive steel framework from the tower and drove it through Fenrir's side, pinning him. With one final, devastating strike, Kong slammed Fenrir into the river below. The impact boiled the water, sending steam and shockwaves across the city. Fenrir struggled beneath the surface. The runes dimmed. This was not the world destined to end. Slowly, Fenrir sank, retreating into the depths where prophecy would wait once more. The storm dissipated. The sky cleared. Silence returned. Kong stood among the ruins, chest heaving, wounds bleeding. He looked upon the city, fragile, loud, insignificant, and yet somehow worth saving. He did not claim victory. He did not roar. He turned away and walked back into the ocean. As dawn broke over New York, humanity emerged to a world forever changed. The Titans were real. The myths were warnings, and the balance still depended on those willing to stand against destiny itself. Because the age of monsters never ended. It simply waits.